sucker in the middle of the nothingness.
And you tell me why, so I'll do my true. And I spent 3 days explaining to you, and you disappear in front of my eyes. So that's why I remember I'm under lies, and I really miss the sunshine, sunshine, my little heart. And I really miss the sunshine, baby. Oh yeah. And I really miss the sunshine, sunshine, my little heart. And I really miss the sunshine, baby. Oh yeah. Tell me why, true to you. And you tell me why, so I'll do the truth. And I spent 3 days explaining with you, and you disappear in front of my eyes. So that's why I remember I'm alive. You tell me why, so I'll do the truth. And I spent 3 days explaining with you, and you disappear. And I really miss the sunshine, baby. And I really miss the sunshine, baby. Oh yeah. And I really miss the sunshine, baby. And I really miss the sunshine, baby. 1, 2, 3.
Look into the eyes and show the end of the world. I would never do love, but I would call it big. Can't express me still, can't express me still. The absolution. Can't express me still, can't express me still. The absolution of love. It's a precious baby, it's a precious baby. That's what you are. It's a precious baby, it's a precious baby. Next time you say don't talk, I say you talk. Because no one's living life. I need to compromise my life, and I say that you always talk. But that's sad, because can't express me still, can't express me still. Because can't express me still, can't express me
All right. Hello. Sorry, I know I had no mic. I could see I had no mic. The problem was I thought I could try to swap around where I had plugged in my my mic in the past, and it didn't work. I had a bunch. Anyway, it doesn't really matter. The important thing is that we're on air now. So hello, everyone. Happy Sunday. How are you doing there? Sorry for the technical problems. That was, again, simply because I think what happened was that I had plugged in my Snowball into a different USB port than OBS had expected, because I was swapping things around, and it didn't like that, not one tiny bit. But happily, we figured out what the problems were. I've got this audio input center. I don't know if it's doubling up the sound, so I'm just gonna turn that one off. So I've got my desktop audio set, got my media sources. We don't want to hear the sound on the video, that's fine. And everything is set to go. So, apologies. I'll just, like, when I do the timestamps for this show, I'll skip right to whatever minute it is we are now. Hello, people in the chat. I could actually put you guys up now so you can see yourselves. I mean, the puppies are cute, but hello, everyone. There we go. You like my top? Thank you. I'm so happy that it's summertime because as you guys might know, my favorite brand is Desigual, and Desigual has great summer clothing. And so, yeah, part of the reason I was late was because I couldn't decide what top I wanted to wear, and I settled on this one. So yes, this is a Desigual piece, as always, because almost everything I own is Desigual. Not always first-hand. Sometimes it's gently used, retro, previously owned Desigual pieces, but yes, it is my favorite designer. So Kevin's audio is notoriously shit. Yes, this is true. Not always, to be fair, but that it is the case that if he has more technical problems than I do. All right, so hello to the chat. I want to say hi before we get started. I see Sabrina is in the chat. Hello, Madeline, James, Jamie, Eva, and I think the Mithril. So and Waru. It's hard for me to see that with the light in my eyes to distinguish those letters. But I hope you guys had a good week. As we're winding down now from the Carl Benjamin campaign and getting back to normal life, which, to be sad, to be honest, I'm a little bit sad about, because it was such a nice distraction from the rising tide of fascism that I see in America and the political chaos in the UK. So what I thought we would do today is a little bit of a warm-up. Maybe start with some PragerU. How would you guys feel about a little PragerU dunking? And then we'll take a break and come back, and I will have things for the second half of the show. I'm gonna be a little bit honest here. I haven't done that much show prep. Not because I don't love you guys, I do, and not because I don't love doing my Sunday show, I do. But I'm getting almost probably too casually relaxed about coming and hanging out with you guys for 2 hours on a Sunday. And I'm like, well, I'll do PragerU in the first hour and kind of figure out. I know generally I had the idea to look at the Washington Post and try to re-engage on a more substantive level with where things are with the Trump administration. On the other hand, this is the other thing, is it's a Sunday morning show, and so I recognize that people might not want to have impeach President Trump, or I don't want to call him president, just impeach Trump first thing in the morning. That might be a little bit in your face. But, yeah, so what are you saying here? There's been so much goodness from Sargon. It'll feel odd without him. Yeah, it'll feel so empty without being able to dunk on Carl. That is, and I'm really happy that I have to say, I'm genuinely pleased that he's at least told Kevin he would come on the happy hour, because I have so many questions. I have so many questions for Carl. And of course, he's going to come in there and try to dunk and own us. But let's face it, there's nothing he can own us on that. Like, what are you going to say? Ooh, Christy, while I was out campaigning, you got a book chapter published in the Oxford University Press. Ooh, look at how, like, what? What are you going to say to me, Carl? But I have so many questions about his thought process, the selection process for UKIP, whether he took his campaign seriously at all, how much money he raised from donations during that period. I have so many questions. So many questions that he will not get at the softball, like, Undoomed or going on the Ralph Retort or wherever else. He's not going to get that kind of questioning. And of course he'll dodge and weave and he won't give a straight answer because he's Carl. But the point is to ask the questions and then watch what he does. That's the real point. But anyway, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Predictions about what he might do next. I think here's the thing. All right, so I guess if we're going to talk about Carl, we can talk about Carl. Today is June 2nd, according to my tablet. And I understand that apparently today is the day of the UKIP leadership elections. I think June 2nd is the day that they're electing the new leader for UKIP because Jared Batten, who lost his seat and oversaw the destruction of his own party, is not going to be running again. The one declared candidate I am aware of, Hooker, I think we talked about this on the happy hour, has already said that there are elements of the party that need to go. I think that if this guy who Carl actually trashed on BBC on the Victoria Derbyshire show, if he actually got elected to be the next leader, this whole delusion of UKIP's revolutionary youth wing of the party is going to be kiboshed immediately because he's going to get kicked out of UKIP. So if I had to put money on something, I would say that I would put money on the next big thing happening to Carl and him actually getting kicked out of UKIP. That's where I'll put my money. Hey, trans rights are human rights. Trans rights are human rights. Trans rights are human rights. Human rights are trans rights. It's Pride Month, everyone. Although we have Pride, we have our Christopher Street Day Parade on July 2nd. Sorry, 7th here in Cologne. So we won't be celebrating Pride until July. But yes, it is Pride Month, so happy Pride Month. And I actually circulated something on Twitter. I retweeted a tweet from the Women's March account saying, we're going to put the T into the LGBT rights part of Pride Month this year. So hurrah. The reverse Midas touch is strong with Carl. It really is. Like the whole pattern of him sort of becoming a death or a vampire, just leeching off of people and destroying things and moving on. Pretty true. It's pretty true. Right. Yeah, support pride and spirits. You don't like the crowds. Yeah, that's fair enough. I think, also, so what happens in Pride and my pattern, my Pride celebration is I have a friend who lives right on the parade route, which is awesome because he lives about 3 or 4 stories up. Actually, I put out a Pride video last year with some clips from his window and the Pride parade going by. And therefore, we can be out of if it's a sunny day, if it's too sunny, we can be up in his flat and out of the sun. If it's a rainy day, we can be out of the rain. But if we want to be downstairs, we just go down the steps or go down the elevator, and then we're on the streets and we're partying. But if we need to use a clean bathroom, we can also just turn around, go upstairs. So it's perfect. And therefore, Pride Day for us here with me and my circle of friends starts about 11 o'clock in the morning with, like mimosas and not really Bloody Marys, but basically start boozing between 10 and 11 and then just stop at like 6 when we run out of booze or energy. One of the two. So that's, and it's so much fun. Cologne Pride is so much fun. Really good group of people. Democrats abroad were also in the Pride parade last year. So a lot of, Cologne went 50%, almost 50% for the Green Party. So it kind of tells you what that is. Let's have a look. Let's do some dunk on the PragerU people. And I wasn't sure what to pick because, like I said, I'm not doing very much in terms of show prep these days. I will get better. Things at work are slowing down. Things at work are changing, not easing off, but they're changing. Therefore, I hope to have a bit more energy going forward. I think we should do what is intersectionality. I think that sounds good because it's something I know about. I had thought Sorry, I'm going to have a sip of my coffee. I do this a lot. I notice when I watch myself back. Like, I want to drink my coffee, but my mouth is too busy running, saying words. And so I kind of like, no, I'm going to keep talking. So let me have a drink. I know that PragerU just put out a video. I'm gonna open this up in another window so we can save this. Because I know enough about intersectionality to be able to speak to this. Okay, perfect. It's muted. We don't have to listen to whatever Muppet is gonna lie about intersectionality. PragerU put out a tweet advertising a video, and it's basically one of their videos. It's a racist video by them. It has to do with. I'm trying to get to the right page. Right. So PragerU's most recent racist video is this stupid video about. I think they said how the black Americans shouldn't vote for the Democrats because, I guess it's not up on here. They're just pushing Candace Owens now, loser, getting her butt fired for being completely useless. It had to do with, maybe they do just recycling stuff. Anyway, sorry, I'll stop babbling and I'll talk to you instead of looking at the screen and just having words flow while I'm finding something else. Like, the tactic of saying, do you know that in the 19th century, it was the Republicans who were for abolition? And did you know that in the early part, half of the 20th century, it was, the Northern Republicans who were less racist than the Southern Democrats? Therefore, African Americans, Black Americans should really vote for the Republican Party, because the Republican Party 150 years ago was the Democratic Party. So I don't know. For me, it's one of the weakest arguments for why African Americans should vote for the Republican Party, because it's not about what your party did back in 1864. That's not how we judge parties. And when they put that out, I was like, and then they're saying, like the first African American elected to the Senate was elected as a Republican in 1937 or something, 1934. And I'm like, what about this century? And so this selective white cherry picking of facts that make white Republicans look good because they held positions that Democrats would be holding today if things were, put back 150 years. Sorry, I have to just cough. It just shows to me, at least, how insincere Republicans are when it comes to taking racial equality seriously. What they're saying is, look, white guys did some nice things for black people 150 years ago, and we still want to skate by on that. Why can't you just be happy that we abolished slavery? Why can't you be happy that we abolished the slavery we imposed on you? Right? Why can't you just tell us how great we are as white men for having eliminated slavery and then shut your mouth about all the other discrimination you face? That is pretty much the reactionary response to complaining. And I'm just going to go on a little diversion here, but I had a message from V and the DMs, because I muted him on Twitter, because in Twitter he's just like stupid and he brings his stupid fanboys with him who make no good comments, they just troll. But he sent me a reaction saying men are now hiding from women because of Me Too. And like, I can already predict what you're going to say, V. What you're going to say is that, ooh, look at these women who complained about a lack of equal opportunity at work, equal treatment at work because of sexual harassment. They are the problem. Now men are scared because these women complained about sexual harassment. And ladies, if you would just endure the sexual harassment and humiliation and degradation and not speak up for yourself and not try to transform your workplace, then you wouldn't be punished by these sexist, idiotic men who claim that they're too scared of women to work with them. And that's the reactionary solution, is to blame women for actually standing up for themselves to try to stop a problem that they feel that they experience in the workplace. And it's the same racist bullshit that PragerU puts out as well. If only black people would stop complaining about the discrimination they face and the fact they're getting murdered by police and harassed by police, and that community budgets are being subsidized by unfair fines, imposed on targeted African Americans. Did you see that there was an incident over with a cop and a young man because a young man was wearing his shorts, his jeans too low, and in that city, if you wore your jeans below your butt, you could get fined like up to $120 and hours of community service. You know who wears their jeans like that? Young men of color, and some white boys who would not see that law enforced on their bodies. But the regulation of black bodies in order to be a moneymaker for the white community? You're going to tell me that the real problem is black people complaining about police treatment and discrimination. That's the real problem. If you are a classical liberal and you believe in equal opportunity, then you need a level playing field. And blaming people who point out that the table is tilted against them, they aren't the problem. Anyway, how did I get on this? You guys get me on rants. And so anyway, that's the kind of... So, right, Prager had tweeted this tweet about Republicans are the real saviors of black Americans. And black Americans should be grateful and vote for them is basically the BS line. But it's not a topic I feel... I wasn't sure I would be able to just spontaneously react to it because I'm still self-educating on civil rights history and civil rights issues and arguments and progress. So I feel like as an ally of racial justice, like I get a little bit hesitant, but I also know it's because I am hesitant as a white ally that I need to step up and do more. So I didn't have time to prep that. So we're going to do something easy, and I'm going to fall back on my feminism instead. I'm going to do intersectionality. But I am conscious of the fact that I need to be more of an ally to racial equality if I want to see change. And I have to educate myself more so I have the confidence to speak to it. But not today, because I didn't prep for it. But I want to. I guess I'm saying that as an aspiration, that I know that it is important for white Americans to speak out and speak up for racial justice, because it shouldn't fall, just like with the Me Too movement, the burden for fixing all of the sexist problems women face shouldn't be just women and people, or the people who are being discriminated against should also not be expected to be the coddlers of their oppressors and provide all the solutions in order to fix the problem, but kind of we have to, as well, because if our allies are failing us, then the work falls on us. And so as a white person who's an ally of racial justice, the more I can do and step up and use my white privilege to call out white racism, call out systematic inequalities, then I hope my goal is, then that's less burden put on people who are actually victimized, who have to take the victimization, process that, and advocate for themselves, and apparently be super nice and polite and not make the white people upset or uncomfortable when talking about the fact that their black bodies are policed and that and they're being killed. White sensibility needs to be respected more than human life. So before I'm going this, anyone else? What are you guys talking about? Fanfic? Are you talking about Lincoln and Marx were pen pals in the fanfics? Lincoln Marx anime? What the hell is going on in my chat? You guys? There's definitely someone who'd write erotic fanfic about that. About Lincoln and Marx? Where are you? What the hell? Clearly, you guys don't come to listen to me. You come to have your own chats. No, that's fine. You guys go in the chat. I'm just winding you up. All right, I've not done any sound checks. I told you I'm lazy. I'm useless, guys. But we're going to look at the intersectionality. I don't think we've done this one before, have we? Hopefully not. If not, we're going to see it again. I guess I will remember if we've done it on the show in the past, but I don't think so. No, I don't want the full screen. I want the half the theater mode. Yeah. Okay, I guess the theater mode is just super big because it's on 125%. That's fair enough. All right, let's see what PragerU has going on. I'll also check the desktop audio here to make sure it looks okay. Nothing. Oh no, not Ben Shapiro. Oh, this guy is awful. We're gonna have be mansplained to. Oh, this is gonna be fun to look at. Sorry, I have, as you guys can see, I'm swapping around where the audio is being directed into the system in order to reroute it so that you can hear it. I don't want... I'm mansplaining. Okay, mansplaining alert. Incoming, incoming. Beep, beep, beep. All right, here we go.
You probably think you're...
Oh, is that too loud for you guys? Probably super loud. I don't want... You don't want him shouting in your ear. I don't want him shouting in your ear. So, I have eased off of the Shapiro for you.
Your opinions matter. You probably think you're an individual with unique experiences, thoughts, and ambitions. Well, I hate to break it to you, but according to current leftist orthodoxy, you're wrong.
I love how they complain about... Okay, they, all right, like Ben Shapiro and others who are critical. They assume a white... The identity politics they assume tends to be the identity politics of white dudes, which is what he's describing here. I'm pretty sure if we have a listen to this again.
Well, I hate to break it.
Oh, right.
Your opinions matter. You probably think your opinions matter.
All right, so I'm just going to put out there, intersectionality has, like, it doesn't judge what opinions are worth more than others or which opinions matter. It's a way of... Intersectionality is a way of recognizing the validity of a variety of experiences and opinions. And here, the basis that Ben is working from is that the opinions of Christian, reactionary, white, cis men who are homophobic and misogynist are the ones that matter the most. And other people's, women of color, disabled people, migrants, whatever else, those opinions don't matter as much. And intersectionality is actually a way to acknowledge the validity of people's opinions based on their personal experience of racism, sexism, of society in general. So it's interesting that he starts off with this idea that if intersectionality doesn't apply to you, then your opinion doesn't matter. When the fact is, you can analyze men in terms of intersectionality as well. So that's the first lie that he seems to be planting the seeds for.
You probably think you're an individual with unique experiences, thoughts, and ambitions.
Intersectionality recognizes that. It actually gives us a way to operationalize that. To say, here are the factors and the nexes on which your experiences are determined because of your socio-demographic location or your economic location or wherever you are in society. So again, this is a straw man he's coming up with.
Well, I hate to break it to you, but according to current leftist orthodoxy, you're wrong.
No, Ben's wrong, because he's a big liarhead, as we all know. All right, continuing.
You see, your opinion only matters relative to your identity and where that identity ranks on the hierarchy of intersectionality.
There is no hierarchy of intersectionality. There is no mathematical formula. This is what the conservative, reactionary white men who feel threatened at the idea that their opinions don't stand only on the basis of who they are. Sorry, I have morning coffee. I have to clear my throat. Hold on, sorry. And this image itself is a freaking lie. So if you look at, for instance, he's got here what we're going to take as a straight white man, and then what is supposed to be a Muslim woman, even though she's whitewashed in order to make them look as if they're parallel. This is a lie. It's just a lie. Intersectionality is not a ranking system. It's a way to reveal the way that people's experiences are determined by the way that society locates them. And it's very possible for a man to be at a white man to be at a lot of intersections of oppression. He might be gay. He might be a trans man. He might be, homeless. He might be working class in terms of his class intersectionality, and the proletariat, and trapped in a cycle of poverty. So, this is not true. This is a lie. Let's continue on to see what other lies we can expose that Ben Shapiro is trying to push.
If you're now thinking, What the hell are you talking about? You haven't spent much time on a modern college campus.
I'm going to guess Ben hasn't spent much time on a modern college campus. I'm going to tell you about the people who are in nursing programs, people who are studying to be teachers, people who are doing business, people who are doing astronomy, people who are, studying physical education or sports, training therapy or whatever else other degree stream you're on. They will not have any exposure to this. You know why? Because this theory operates within a very limited set of the humanities and the social sciences, because they apply to the humanities and the social sciences. And this lie that somehow the existence of intersectional ideas on campus are therefore a basis of indoctrination, again, more lies. Just more lies. And why does Ben have to lie about what happens on a college campus? Because they can't attack the idea of higher education directly. That's really what they want to do. They want to make education only accessible to a privileged few. The rest of us, they just want to turn into worker drones who can perform functions that we get paid for and compete for in the workplace. We compete with other workers in order to bring down the prices for them. But actually getting people to question capitalism, to question power relations, to question the authority of men who claim authority from God, to structure our societies and to pass laws that control women's bodies. If the masses question that, then that really undermines their power. And so they can't attack higher education because higher education itself is a good. Like, people think education is a good thing. So the way they do it is they try to attack the basis of the institution by saying it's full of Marxists, it's full of these feminists, campuses. We need thought control on our campuses. We need to eliminate academic freedom. It's dangerous to let people question capitalism and let people question the authority of men who rely on a book from 6,000 years ago, claiming that as their basis of power. All right, continuing. This is really easy to debunk, by the way, so I hope you guys are having fun. I'll check the chat in a second.
Intersectionality is a form of identity politics in which the value of your opinion depends on how many victim groups you belong to.
Lie. I guess, just seriously, that is such a lie. That is absolutely nothing. It's not, oh, God. These guys can't tell the truth. Ben Shapiro can't have a fair fight. He can't own liberals with the facts because the facts aren't on his side. So this whole thing about intersectionality being a form of identity politics in which there's a ranking system, there's no citation for this. Do you notice? Because there is no intersectional theory that looks like this. And also, can I just be a little bit of a grammar Gestapo here? This last bit of the construction of the sentence is awful. I understand that ending a sentence in a preposition is acceptable in sort of colloquial and spoken English, but this is like when you have a piece of writing in this way and you're putting it up on a screen. The way this sentence should have been phrased was, intersectionality is a form of identity politics, which of course it's not, in which the value of your opinion depends on how many victims groups belong to. It should be how many you belong to depends on how many groups to which you belong. There should not be a preposition at the end of the sentence. So I'm just going to point that out, that this is poor grammar. And if you want to be claiming some sort of intellectual superiority as, part of the association of the master race, the least you can do is actually use the English language correctly and not end your sentence in a preposition. That's poor English. I'm just going to point that out. I was going to look up what intersectionality is. Yeah, let's debunk this lie. Intersectionality. Right. Highly contentious issue here, but it identifies how different aspects of social and political discrimination overlap with gender. That's it. I mean, here it's a non-empirical qualitative analytic framework that applies deconstructionist critical theory, like a literary criticism methods, again, humanities, to attempt to identify how interlocking systems of power impact those who are most marginalized in society. Non-empirical, qualitative, analytic framework. Do you know what that means? That means it is not a ranking system. So Ben Shapiro is a big fat liar head. Again, PragerU lies. They lie to you. They lie. Ben Shapiro lies to you. He's a liar. And he lies because he can't deal with the actual truth of intersectionality. He'd have to admit it has some good points. Hitting play.
At the bottom of the totem pole is the person everybody loves to hate, the straight white male.
Again, this is men looking at how things going on, right? There are various forms of social stratification, such as class, race, sexual orientation, age, religion, creed, disability, and gender, which are included in the consideration of intersectional feminism and its social and cultural effects. The purpose of intersectionality is to identify that these forms of discrimination are related to one another, and that these relationships take these relationships into account when working to promote social and political equality. Now, here's a question for you. Whom in our society possesses the most amount of opportunity, power, and basically, like, they set the bar for what everyone else wants to be in terms of, like, access to opportunity and being treated like a full, well-rounded human being? Well, that's the straight white dudes in society. Because we've inherited a society constructed by straight white dudes who excluded everybody else. Therefore, if your power base is straight white men, then that is the benchmark to which everyone else wants to be. We want to make everyone else as treated as equally as the straight white guys are. That's it. So it's not saying that straight white men individually can't experience discrimination. As I said, there are class locations, there are sexual orientation locations. There might be mental health issues that make it more difficult for a man to get a hold on a job. Intersectionality doesn't dismiss that. It just it contextualizes, let's say, the ability of a white guy with mental health issues and the social structure designed to help him deal with his problems or filter him into the system. And is his access the same as a black man's? Now, if there's a lot of problems with getting access to mental health issues for everybody, that's true, but then there are additional barriers that black men might face, and if we're not aware of those, then they don't have the equal opportunity. So this is it. It's not that straight white men are somehow bad and that they don't ever experience oppression. It's that who in our society would we want everyone to have if everyone in society was treated the same as white guys are treated generally by the system, everybody's lives would be much better. You're the base. You're the thing that we all want to get to. We just want to be treated the way you are treated on a regular basis. That's it. But here, he thinks that men are being demonized and we're pushing them down in order to get a sort of a leg over, or to get, be better than straight white men. That's not it. We just want what you guys have. We just want the same treatment that you guys get for everybody. And understanding what the barriers are to that based on your ethnic background or your class location or your sexual orientation. That's what intersectionality is about. All right, quickly before I hit play again, should I look at the chat? What do you guys think? Let's have a look. All right. I think you can make a mathematically precise qualitative statements about what a formula would look like, but actually plugging in values seems impossible. I would agree. I mean, the whole point of a qualitative assessment is to acknowledge that these things can't be put into a simple metric, a simple category, that it's kind of complicated and messy and it will change over time and it will just change on the circumstances. But that doesn't mean it's not a real thing, right? So, yes, I think conservatives have a real agenda to make intersectionality sound like a grievance algorithm that you just plug in characteristics and suddenly some people become super privileged. That, of course, is in their interest, because if we look at and if they treat intersectionality as a serious critique, as a serious theoretical framework, then they'd have to admit that there's a lot of systematic, bigotry going on. Okay, let's see. Just means that Marx, I'm still looking at I think the analysis of race and class is sometimes conflated. Does this help the right-wing goblins like Shapiro? Well, race and class are conflated because class and race have historically been conflated. If you just think economically, for hundreds of years, African Americans were property. And when white people came along and there was like this movement for abolition and the fight over the Civil War, and white people in the North, and some, I guess, sympathetic people around the rest of the country, eliminated legally slavery, white people just walked away. It feels like, in terms of the North, they walked away from the problem feeling like they'd solved it. And what happened to former slaves in the South is they had no education. They had no access of remedial education or training programs or career paths or anything. They were just basically turned out from properties with nothing and became a little bit better than slaves as sharecroppers. So they were filtered. They were basically shunted from a slave class into the proletariat without any assets, very likely to be in debt, living paycheck to paycheck, denied education, denied training, denied opportunity, denied, all of the barriers that were there. And that stuck. We're still dealing with the abandonment of multiple generations of American citizens who were former slaves, because honestly, our white ancestors were derelict in their duty of taking care of it. And they've left the slavery, and they left the legacy of slavery and the bigotry and all the institutional racism that came in to replace the structure of slavery, to keep black men in prison, and stop people from voting and everything else. So I think in America, race and class are inexorably linked, especially for the non-white population. Okay, let's go back, because I noticed that we're getting near at 40 minutes, and I want to try to keep it to, about an hour and then take a break. So let's go back to the video.
And who's at the top? Well, it's very hard to say, because new groups claim victim status all the time.
Lie. It's not like there's a ranking of intersectional who's on the top. It's not like, like a football league where like, oh, look, this one legislation piece happened to exclude trans people, so now trans people pip Muslims to the post. No, this is a straw man. These are lies. Ben Shapiro can't. Take me on, man. I'll debate you. Take me on with this BS, and I will destroy you, Ben Shapiro, because you're a big fat liar head, and you live in an echo chamber of white privilege that protects you, and what your whole aim is to protect your white privilege. So you have to lie to do it, because it's immoral, unethical, it has no rational basis. So if you aren't lying about what feminists and others are doing to try to make the society meritocratic, to make it equal opportunities, then you don't have an argument. So this guy's such a piece of... I'm not swearing, and I'm trying to keep all naughty words off of my Sunday show because I really want to make some money off of ads instead of asking you guys for money. So I'm trying very hard to speak only nice, polite language on my Sunday shows. And then in the happy hour, that's where I let off. All right, getting back to destroying Ben. Let's do that.
No one can keep track. So, how does this intersectionality thing play out? Something like this. Let's say you're a gay white woman. Your opinion matters, but less than that of a gay black woman.
You notice again, there is no citation here whatsoever. You know why? Because this is a lie. This is pure propaganda. This is not how any of this works, and that's why he can't cite any websites that show the current rankings or the point scoring or anything like that, because this is a lie. Lie, lie, lie,
Why?
lie, lie,
Because while
lie,
all
lie,
women are
lie.
oppressed by the patriarchy, and all gays are oppressed by the heterosexual majority,
Actually, and men are oppressed by the patriarchy as well. The patriarchy uses us and abuses us all, and it determines our worth based on where we fit in the patriarchy. And yeah, women are considered lower status in the patriarchy. That's why you see the exclusion of women in religion. That's why you see the exclusion of women as much as they could get away with, except for extraordinary instances where women were able to organize their own power in politics. You look at business. There's a reason why women are behind men in terms of business creation. It's because we couldn't own our own property and take out bank accounts in our own name until the 1960s and 1970s. You couldn't get a credit card without your husband's permission. So don't tell me that there's somehow not oppression of women out there when there is a historical legacy of the exclusion of women. And it's still going on now. We still see it happening in Alabama and Georgia and other states where they are treating women's bodies as state property. They're not treating women as human beings.
Blacks have a victim status that whites obviously don't.
And again, he's not citing anything here. This is just his lies.
Of course, a gay black woman's victim status is less than that of a black trans woman who ranks
he says, of course, but where is he getting
a
this
black
information?
Muslim trans woman, and so on.
He's just he's making these things up. He's not citing any studies. He's not quoting a single feminist. He's straw-manning this argument. Because, let's face it, Ben Shapiro's too much of a chicken. He's too much of a coward to deal with the actual truth about intersectionality. So, yeah, I mean, I'm obviously a small channel, and he won't pay any attention to me. But if you want to debate intersectionality, Ben, I'll get you out of your little echo chamber bubble, and I'll smash you. Because you're lying. You can't back up lies. I can expose your lies, and that's it. And let's go for it. Come on, Ben, let's go. Debate me.
The more memberships you can claim in oppressed groups, the more aggrieved you are, and the higher you rank.
Nope. Is he showing any ranking tables? No. You know why? Because they don't exist. You know why? Because he's a big fat liarhead. Lie,
Get it?
lie, lie. No.
Good.
Yeah, because you're like, a citation needed.
Because it's about to get even more complicated. Intersectionality takes your victim status and uses it as the basis for creating alliances with other victim groups.
Again, citation needed. This is, again, we know PragerU lies. It gets really frustrating in terms of just that which can be asserted without evidence can be dismissed without evidence. Ben, Prager. And right now, literally everything you said is easily dismissed because you've not presented any evidence. You're the intellectual equivalent of deep fried candy bars. There's no effort that goes into there. And you might think it's satisfying, but really all it does is make you want to die.
30 or 40 years ago, activists encouraged racial solidarity among blacks to combat oppression. But today, that's not enough.
Citation needed. Who? Let's see a
Today's
quote.
activists demand blacks make common cause with other allegedly oppressed people.
Demanding, without a quote. No citations whatsoever. He's just making stuff up. I just want to make up stuff about Ben Shapiro, the way that he makes up stuff about progressives who are trying to solve problems in society. And all he can do is complain about people who are standing up and trying to solve the problems that confront them. If only the people who are oppressed would shut up about it, all the problems would go away, right?
Gays, lesbians, transgenders, Palestinians, Native Americans, whomever. Here's the logic. A black gay and a Hispanic gay may not belong to the same victim group racially.
Again, can I just point out, no citations. He's literally just making this up. This is as bad as a creationist video. Honestly.
But they do belong to the same victim group on the basis of their sexuality. By focusing on the places where various victim identities intersect, intersectionality creates a united us versus them paradigm.
No.
Righteous victims rising up together to fight the oppressor. Those
the dreaded white guy.
Straight white men.
Wow. When you have to experience equality instead of privilege, it really feels like oppression, huh, Ben? Come on. Look, intersectionality is a non-empirical qualitative analytic framework that attempts to identify how interlocking systems of power impact people who are marginalized in society. There's a reason why intersectionality is now being used in health studies and other elements of STEM in improving the human condition. Because people recognize when you have, let's say, a health policy that has to do with high blood pressure, you have instances where people in the Black community have, let's say, fewer opportunities to have high blood pressure detected, that they might be more vulnerable because of historical, economic, socio-locations, because of where white people have put them over centuries, they might not have the same kind of access to health insurance. Or let's say that, with for whatever reason, right? If you don't take into account the barriers that the people in the Black community might face in order to get the medication they need to live, how are you going to have policies that save lives? And what Ben wants to say is we should treat everybody the same. Basically, you get straight white men, and then everyone else who's complaining, just shut up. Just shut up. He doesn't have a solution. He doesn't have an alternative to intersectionality. He just wants to shame it because it points out so powerfully all the ways in which white people have privilege. I have privilege as a white person. Definitely. I don't worry about getting pulled over by the police. And you can see, white people, when they get pulled over the cops, they get assy. And when anyone else gets pulled over by the cop who's not white, they are, trying to be respectful. And it's white people who talk back. Anyway, he doesn't have an alternative to solve the problems of intersectionality. And actually, this is it. They don't want to solve the problems of racism or sexism because they benefit from it. Guys like Ben benefit from complaining about attempts to fix these problems as opposed to actually fixing them.
This explains why at a rally protesting the treatment of Palestinians by Israel, you might see a contingent of lesbian activists.
Is this supposed to somehow undermine their activism? Is that I don't understand what the point here. Obviously, what offends and what really threatens these reactionary straight white dudes. Hashtag not all white dudes, but they saw that with the Women's March. I think the Women's March really terrified them because it wasn't a single unified issue. It wasn't like all these people hate Trump and that's it. The Women's March was about healthcare for all. It was about migrants' rights. It was about the Israel-Palestine issue. It was about people protesting, reminding us that Black Lives Matter. It was about women's reproductive health. It was about basically a whole progressive, it was the intersectional progressive part of the United States. Not saying we oppose this one thing, but saying I oppose these 10 things. And oh, by the way, the 10 things that this person opposes, they have some really good points. And these aren't my 10 things, but I'm going to go stand by them because they have, I'm going to support them and what they're doing because I see how all of these systems of oppression interconnect. And you can't go, okay, we're going to go for abortion rights and not deal with the economic situation that pushes women. The lack of paid family leave, healthcare, access to contraception that goes into producing unwanted pregnancies. It's all of a piece. And by trying to break us up and divide up our allyship by mocking us, they're trying to take away our power. That's what Ben and his cronies here are aiming for. They want to delegitimize allyship and saying, oh, well, because you're a lesbian, that's not, that's like somehow you can't have an opinion on Palestine, or mentioning or showing your allyship is actually, somehow what, bad? No, they are threatened by our allyship. And because they know if the voting patterns change, the voting patterns the GOP have planned their fascist takeover of America on, and it's young people and people of color who are outvoting white boomers, that throws off their 20-year plan to do one-party rule across the United States of the Republican Party, Christian, white, wealthy, cis, homophobic, transphobic, misogynistic men. And that terrifies people like Prager.
That's intersectionality at work.
No, it's
They're
not.
so united by their victim status that it doesn't matter if Islamists throw gays off.
They're so united by their victim status, it doesn't. Yes. So this is another thing, right? Like, feminists are supposed to hate Muslims in Ben's mind because we're supposed to treat all Muslims in one way. No, that's what you guys do. Like, women can understand that the oppression of Palestine, lesbians can understand that the oppression of Palestine is a form of oppression without somehow of state oppression, right? State-sponsored oppression, and disconnect that from teachings in Islam that another country does and performs, and condemn that as well. Again, if it wasn't for straw man arguments, Ben wouldn't have any. This is so weak. Oh God, I really want to debate Ben Shapiro now. I really want to destroy him. It would be so easy. Debate me, Ben. Debate me on intersectionality. I will crush you. I will crush you. I will absolutely crush you.
Of buildings or murder female family members who defy their father's wishes.
Yes, so basically, lesbians in America should hate all Muslims. That's what he's saying. And the fact that that people are allies with other oppressed groups is so threatening to them. That's what I've learned from this video. This is the biggest takeaway for me for this video, is that when we ally with each other and we amplify and support and exponentially increase the attention by being lesbians for the Palestinian freedom or whatever else we show our allyship, that freaks them out. So do it. Everybody. Let's be even better allies. Let's be louder allies. Let's support people who have a progressive cause, who want to see real change in the world. If nothing, because it's the right thing to do it for that reason. But then also know, just as a cherry on top, that it's really going to threaten people like Dennis Prager and Ben Shapiro.
Victim solidarity trumps all other considerations.
How about the oppression of, oppression anywhere is oppression everywhere? How about the fact that it's not victim solidarity so much as a desire for a meritocracy, a desire for people to have the same freedoms and opportunities as the most privileged in a society? He has to demonize that because it's a threat to their power structure. Why would solidarity with people who are oppressed be a bad thing unless you're defending the oppressor? I can't think of a reason.
The term intersectionality was coined by Kimberly Crenshaw, a professor of law at Columbia University. She explains that intersectionality was my attempt to make feminism, anti-racist activism, and anti-discrimination law do what I thought they should: highlight the multiple avenues through which racial and gender oppression were experienced.
Yes, she developed a theoretical framework that allows us to more clearly and systematically discuss experiences of oppression. And the fact that it's not there's an oppression based on racism, which is exactly the same and experienced in exactly the same way as oppression based on sexism. Different oppressions take different forms. And when you put those together, you can't multiply them and get a calculus. You get an individualized experience based on where they live in the country, whether or not, all kinds of stuff. So he is demonizing her for clarifying a social phenomenon that had previously not been given a language to accurately describe. He's demonizing her for contributing to knowledge. Why? Because this is a very powerful theoretical framework for understanding how oppressions interact and work and amplify each other or exponentially increase or whatever. And the more we understand our own oppression, the more we can identify the sources of it and work to eliminate the source of the oppression, whether it's policy or other structures or whatever else. And for the people who benefit from that oppression, that idea is terrifying. For certain white guys, the fact that they would have to actually compete on an equal playing field with other talented people and not skate by who they know and the legacies into high status universities, if they can't get by on that, well, my gosh, how would they become president?
To Crenshaw, America is a terrible place full of victim groups.
She didn't say America was a terrible place, you lying. No, you just put those words in her mouth. You just put that attitude into her assumption. Why? Is it because you're a racist, Ben? Is it because you have to strawman your opponents? You can't deal with their arguments because their arguments are too powerful and based in fact, and yours just are based in lies. So no, she doesn't think America is a terrible place. I would say that I would agree with the fact that oppression in America is terrible. America has a terrible system of oppression in various forms, in the criminal justice system, in the welfare system, in the economic structures, in the historical unemployment trends, and the lack of doing things to address the root problems of historically high unemployment in various communities. And of course, if we want Americans to succeed, don't we have to overcome these obstacles so that so that jobs are based on merit, and all of this people who have talent can get access to the education training they need to make that talent come out and be great and make a societal contribution. So why are you hating on meritocracy, Ben? Why are you hating on giving people the opportunity to become their best selves? Is it because if they did that, you couldn't compete? I think you couldn't compete.
Each with their particular set of grievances. Why shouldn't these victim groups get together and form a political coalition unified by the belief that the majority society has harmed them?
Again, no data, no citations, no survey data. Ben, that which can be asserted without evidence can be dismissed without evidence. You have no insight into what people are thinking. Millions and millions of Americans are thinking. Unless you have survey data, you are talking crap. You liar! You're a liar!
That some professor tucked away in an ivory tower would come up with this nonsense
She wasn't Okay,
is not surprising. What is surprising?
All right, okay. First of all, is he calling Crenshaw? Is he calling her a academic locked away in an ivory tower? Is that what she's just doing this as she didn't was living outside of society and had no idea? Okay, let's just look at this. This woman is an accomplished, amazing, she is a mentor. There's a role model. She's awesome. And what she is a full-time professor at the School of Law. And she was looking at arrest records and the system through which black women, when they get into the criminal justice system, are they treated the same as white women? And no, they're not. The fact that they are black and they are women produces different outcomes. So she was going off empirical observation. She was noticing a pattern in the data. And even though people have kind of described things like that before, no one had really given a name to it. No one had given a system of describing how we get to these outcomes. And she, looking at the data, inferred these patterns and gave it a name. So she is a social researcher. She is an illuminator. She is a theorist. We should be thanking her because she gave us a framework and a language to describe something precisely. And this is not about ivory tower pretending like this is not happening in the real world. She was going from crime statistics. When was the last time you even looked at data, Ben? Oh, wait, I'm sorry. You're just handed your talking points by rich, straight, white, reactionary men who want to preserve racism and sexism. So that's where you get your information from. I get my information from facts.
Surprising and disturbing is that so many people actually go along with it.
Yeah. You know why? Because it works as a theory. This is the thing about theoretical frameworks, right? If theories don't work, they get left behind. Do you know why we don't teach phrenology in the schools and universities? Because it doesn't work. But if you look at intersectionality, and let's do health studies. Health science. Incorporating intersectionality into population health research. Why is that important? Well, maybe because systems of oppression impact people's access to health access and the quality of healthcare they get. Oh my gosh, look at all this intersectionalities, how to understand, all this kind of stuff. Intersectionality in policy making. If this is a failed theory, Ben, why aren't people, just leaving it? Let's go. Sorry. Public policy, right? Oh, there we go. Intersectionality and public policy. Some lessons, bringing intersectionality to it. A handbook of intersectionality in public policy, put out by Palgrave, which is a respected academic publisher. So let's see what they have to say. What are actual people doing research in public policy saying about this? Grounded in Black feminist scholarship and activism and formally coined in 1989 by Black legal scholar Kimberly Williams Crenshaw, intersectionality has garnered significant attention in the field of public policy and other disciplines or fields of study. The potential of intersectionality, however, has not been fully realized in policy, largely due to the challenges of operationalization. And operationalization means taking a concept and defining it in such a way that we can apply it to, we can construct a measure for it. So operationalization is the process of going from a concept to a metric, but it's not the concept and it's not the metric. Let me give you an example. Democracy is a concept. Democracy is a pretty complicated concept because it has a long history. It's been used in different ways over centuries, and our understanding of it today is very different in the past. So we have Athenian democracy. You might want to look at other forms of democracy over time and ask ourselves, okay, so what is a modern democracy? What elements, necessary and sufficient elements, are needed for a country to be considered a democracy? Or maybe even questioning, is it democracy versus not democracy, or more democratic versus less democratic? So, we can have a 7-point scale of democracy where countries are rated and they're given an overall score and average. So that process of so democracy means fair and frequent elections, open and transparency, all these sort of elements. And you can say, does a country do this? Does it do that? Tick off and give them points and say, these have the most democratic elements and these have the least democratic elements. All of that is, the process of that is operationalization. And so what the book is saying here is that we're going to take the theory, we're going to apply it specifically to public policy issues and look at operationalizing this theory in the context of our field of expertise. All right, so where was we were on operationalization. I have to figure out where I was. Recently, some scholars and activists have begun to advance conceptual clarity and guidance for intersectionality policy applications. Yet, a pressing need remains for knowledge development and exchange in relation to empirical work that demonstrates how intersectionality improves public policy. This handbook fills this void by highlighting the key challenges, possibilities, and critiques. It's not just like, ooh, intersectionality is awesome. There's also like, hey, keep this in mind, or this person has this point and critique. Why? Because they're intellectually rigorous, unlike Ben Shapiro. The handbook, yes, critiques informed approaches in public policy. It brings together international scholars from a variety of public policy sectors and disciplines to consider the state of intersectionality in policy research and analysis. Importantly, it offers a global perspective on the added value and how-to of intersectionality-informed policy approaches that aim to advance what's the whole purpose of this process? Why do we go through the process of analyzing things from an intersectional perspective? Because we want to advance equity and social justice. And that is what PragerU and other types are terrified. They don't want equality or equity and social justice. They don't. So just to break down the lies, and then we're going to have to go, I'm sure pretty soon here. I think I've already gone over, 6 minutes over, but I was late in starting. So, okay. Let's see if we can just plow through the last bit of this.
America is the most open, least racist nation on the planet.
I really despise this kind of propaganda. I really, really do. Having lived outside the United States, there are other countries that are more open, and there are other places that are less racist than America. So this sort of unsupported assertion. I know I said I was going to try to get through this. I know, but I failed.
That Professor Crenshaw is free to spin her nonsensical.
Did I accidentally? Yeah. Sorry, I just want to turn up my volume a little bit relative to the TV or the video. Okay, so no, just no. This is a lie.
On the planet.
Nope, not
that
true.
Professor Crenshaw is free to spin her nonsensical theories and get paid well for it.
Her nonsensical theories were taken from data, you muppet. What do you mean nonsensical theories? She was looking at arrest data and sentencing data, which you don't know, of course, because you're profoundly ignorant of these things and you don't read, and people at Prager don't read. But again, that's a lie. It's just a lie.
Should offer adequate proof of that. And since when do you have to live someone's experience in order to understand them?
No, see, the problem is that racist white people don't believe other people's experiences. They don't believe they think that white people experience more discrimination than any other, than other groups in America. So clearly, it's not enough to just like say you understand someone's experiences. The point of intersectionality is, again, it's to provide a theoretical framework for understanding things and to connect things for people across countries, across time, in different locations, and from different groups. And clearly, PragerU does not understand where these people are coming from because they're demonizing them and lying about them. It's all propaganda. There's no citations, no facts, cherry-quoted and mispresented quotes, and lies. Just, it's amazing to me that this is even allowed to be on YouTube, because it is seriously just a pack of lies that advance a reactionary patriarchal agenda.
You don't have to live as a slave in order to understand that slavery is cruel and wrong.
But maybe you need to stop dismissing everybody else's experiences and calling it an oppression Olympics and lying about them if you want to demonstrate that you can be trusted to understand someone's experience. But you don't. So we don't think you can.
You don't have to live as a woman in order to recognize the evil of rape.
Wait, is that really what we're coming down to here? Like, slavery and rape are the basis of empathy? See, and now I'm probably just got myself demonetized too. But anyway, there are more things you don't. This is it. You don't believe women. You don't believe women when we talk about our Me Too experiences. And you don't believe black Americans or people of color when they say they experience racism. Like, you just told Crenshaw that her theory was made up out of nothing, when her theory was made up out of observable data, police arrests and convictions and sentencing practices. So how are you supposed to convince us that you can empathize with other people's oppressions when you lie about what people do?
Finally, and most important, intersectionality promotes the biggest hoax of all, that we aren't individuals who are to be judged on the basis of how we act, but are merely members of groups to be judged on the basis of our group identity.
Again, this is a lie. Intersectionality shows how our socio-demographic class locations can influence or even determine the kinds of experiences we have as individuals. It's a prior. You're born into a socio-demographic location in a society, and your experiences of that society will be structured by those things. So yes, you are both an individual with experiences, and you are born into an intersectional part of location, which might change over your life. Different things will happen to you. You might become parts of groups and, leave other groups or whatever else. But of course, Ben Shapiro can't be honest about intersectionality, or he'd have to admit that it has good points.
In other words, you and I, as individuals with our unique experiences, thoughts, and ambitions, count for nothing.
No, not true. It's just a lie. Intersectionality actually gives us a way to describe the complexity and the myriad facets of those experiences based on a structural location. And then there's a structure agency, right? We are born into structures, and then we have individual autonomy and agency. And these are not completely separate. You are an individual within a structure. And of course, they can't be honest about this, because then they'd have to admit that people on the left are right. Correct.
Our racial and sexual identity count for everything.
Nope, that's a lie.
It's hard to imagine an idea less likely to produce a free and equal America than that.
No, how about patriarchy? How about racism? How about homophobic policies? How about transphobic policies? How about anti-immigrant policies? How about caging babies? All of those are going to be bigger obstacles to equality than identifying the forms of oppression that keep people from actually being equal. I'm just going to put that out there.
But what do I know? I'm just a straight white male.
Yeah, well, this is the problem. You don't know anything because you are being paid to be an ignorant shill, and you don't have any facts behind you. You just have your feels. So your opinion is useless, not because of your characteristics. It's because you're speaking a script written by propagandists, getting paid millions to tell other people that complaining about their oppression is the problem.
I'm Ben Shapiro for Prager University.
Yeah, one, it's not a university, and two, your opinion is worthless. Ben Shapiro, your opinion is completely worthless because it's not based in any reality. It's based in bigotry. All right, let's have a look at the chat. Let me swap over here. I will pop the chat up and see what you guys are having to say, and then we'll take a break. Yeah? All right. Oh, I did transition that already. Well, do this one? I'm bigger. Shapiro. They don't even believe victims. Correct. Rejecting individualism is not rejecting individuality. Thank you. Yes. Make a graph of the BS next time. Yes. The Red Scare. Yeah, it did some damage. Yes, it definitely did. Right. You guys seem to have enjoyed that takedown. As Benro calls himself white, that answers that question. Yes. PU. Also the sound it makes when it smells. Yeah. I mean, that video is literally just complete propaganda from start to finish. Complete garbage. Jamie, you are making tacos. Hashtag jealous. Can I have some? Yes, please make me a plate. I love Mexican food. I love Mexican food. Like when I'm in the States, I miss Indian food. Because in the Midwest, it's almost impossible to get a good curry. But when I'm in Europe, I miss Mexican food. Tex-Mex, yeah, but really, like, there's a great place, Bay City Burrito, or Bay Area Burrito. I always get the name wrong. That, actually, I went to see a friend, spend an evening with a friend the other night, and we went to Bay City Burritos, and it was like, oh, so good. So good. All right. That is going to be the end of part 1. So I am out of coffee. Definitely. I've got my cologne mug today. It's got lipstick on the side. Sorry. But I have my, what do you call the Starbucks You Are Here collection. Because it's big and I wanted a big coffee. So all of us, we're going to take a break. We can go get some fresh air, stretch your legs. I know I need to stretch my legs being sat here cross-legged for the last hour and 15 minutes. Make some coffee, have some tea, whatever you do. Let's come back at, I'm going to call it 22 minutes. Because I don't want to just do a quick 5 minutes. I want like 7 minutes. Otherwise, I'm kind of rushing around. So back here in 7 minutes. I will see you guys soon. I will do some more talking with the chat. And then I will figure out what we'll do in the hour 2. I'm thinking we might have to do some grown-up stuff about Trump and impeachment. Because I've avoided that subject the whole time Carl's been running. So I'm actually, let's call it 23 now. Minutes after the hour. I will see you guys in a bit. Bye.
Thousands of people and friends, regardless elections ahead. It's only been lonely. I feel so lonely. I decide to run. The grains on my head is sad to fade away. To hear you quiet slowly distracts my head. It's a girl in the middle of the nothingness. And you tell me why, so I'll do the truth. And I spend 3 days explaining with you. And you disappear in front of my eyes. So that's why I remember I'm unrealized. And I really meant the sunshine in my look. And I really meant the sunshine, baby.
me shadow the end of the world. I would never do love, but I would call it big. Can't express me still, can't express me still. The absolution. Can't express me still, can't express me still. The absolution of love. It's a precious baby, it's a precious baby. That's what you are. It's a precious baby, it's a precious baby. That's what you are. Next time you say don't talk, I say you talk. Because no one's lived my life. I need to compromise my life. And I say that you always talk. My bad side. Because can't express me still, can't express me still. Because can't express me still, can't express me still. The absolution. It's a precious baby, it's a precious baby. That's what you are. It's a precious baby, it's a precious baby. That's what you. It's a precious baby, it's a precious baby. That's what you are. It's a precious baby, it's a precious baby. That's what you are. The absolution of love. The absolution of love. The absolution of love. The absolution of love.
Hello everyone, how you doing? I'm back from the break, and we're ready to go with the second half of the show, which is, like I said, I haven't done much in terms of preparation, but we're just gonna, oh no. Oh, I made a tactical error. Okay, there's a fly. I was trying to get the fly out of the room by opening the window, which was a mistake, because I also use, like, I put a sheet to block so I don't get backlit. Anyway, we'll just deal. It's not terrible, I'm not blown out too much. Oh, great. Now this. Drafts. Window. Air pressure. Science. Alright. Anyway. Yes, it's a very lovely day here in Cologne. It's a lovely, absolutely gorgeous day, and I have the windows open, but of course, when you start doing that, you get drafts, and the windows get, blown open and shut, and I realize that I've now created a through draft, or in German, a Durchzug. I learned is the term for a through draft in German. And as a consequence, I'm not going to be able to open the window, or it's just going to keep getting blown in my face. Anyway, you guys don't care about that. It's boring. Let's talk about something interesting. Let's return to the world of American politics. And I'm going to give you a take on impeachment. All right. So, Oh, I see what that problem was. I had this sort of weird line over my head, but it was just the frame of the quilt behind me. Impeachment. It's a very contentious subject in American politics, understandably. So, I discussed this a little bit on the Steve Shives patron hangout. By the way, I should mention, I will be having my patron hangout at what time do I want to do it? 6 o'clock? 7 o'clock? Sometime? I don't know, sometime tonight. I'm really, really bad with organizing things right now. My life is chaos. But I will be posting a hangout link to watch the patron hangout for later on tonight, and I'll post it as well in the Facebook group for my patrons, so they can join me later on this evening. I ended up having to push back last week's patron hangout. But in Steve's patron hangout, we had a discussion, or there was a discussion about impeachment. And I wanted to kind of go over it because I see this issue from two different perspectives, from two different intersections, as it were. on the one hand, I see it as an American who is a Democrat and who is watching the rise of fascism in the United States. On the other hand, I am a political student. You know, I study power and how power is attained and obtained and held on to using the democratic process. So my heart is in one place and my head is in another place. So I guess let me tell you where my heart is first, because otherwise people will say blah, 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 blah. When really I'm kind of being a devil's advocate. I want impeachment now. I actually thought impeachment proceedings should have started on the basis of Michael Cohen naming Donald Trump and Donald Trump existing as an unindicted co-conspirator in his campaign finance hush money cover-up crimes. How can Michael Cohen be sitting in jail for a crime he committed for and to benefit Donald Trump, but Donald Trump is not being prosecuted for the crime he benefited from? Like, that, to me, we could have started impeachment proceedings at that point. It's also the right thing to do in terms of, like, if we want to consider impeachment the equivalent of the justice system but for the president. If the idea is impeachment is meant to be an accountability tool where we hold our presidents to not criminal standards, but the sort of like an even higher bar of high crimes and misdemeanors that is outlined by the Constitution, then we need the impeachment process. There is also the case that's been made by Jerry Nadler that if there is an impeachment inquiry or impeachment proceedings, the Congress will have a better legal hand to play, let's say, in the courts if the president tries to obstruct and prevent Congress from getting the information it needs to make an impeachment determination, or any determination, which is what they're doing. They're slow walking and they're obstructing and they're lying. They're even just not complying with federal judges' request to make information open to the public or available to the public. They're defying it everywhere. So there are a lot of good reasons. There are a lot of good, and I don't want to say this entirely in a derogatory way, but there's a lot of good Washington bubble reasons. And I get those. I have a lot of sympathy for all of those points because I agree with them. I think that there's no reason why Trump should be not impeached, not going through an impeachment process now. And I honestly don't care whether or not the Senate convicts. And there's a lot of, and I'll also say this, you cannot compare the experience of Bill Clinton and the Republicans in the 90s to Trump and the Democrats today. Because the Republicans were operating on an entirely trumped up, sort of charge of perjury. And the only reason it was trumped up was because, Clinton had to give deposition on something else and then was asked about this. So they weren't even impeaching him, as it were, for the thing that started off the Whitewater investigation. Whereas we know Trump was actively obstructing any investigation into uncovering how Russia helped him. And that is what Mueller mostly said. Look, I don't have the evidence to prove Trump as a person met with people and deliberately created this conspiracy. Obviously, Trump used his minions, his, what's the word I'm looking for? But the people who went out on his behalf and did things for him, and they spoke in a coded language. They didn't write anything, so there's no paper trail. So that's dodgy, but there's nothing I can prove. But the one thing Mueller is like, I can definitely tell you there's evidence for is obstruction of justice. It was him trying to cover up the cover-up where the real crimes took place. Anyway, I'm losing my train of thought here. So you can't compare the crime that was the impeachable offense, the perjury offense that the Republicans were going for, and the fact that this guy is actually like a criminal. The Michael Cohen thing, he's an individual, he's an unindicted co-conspirator. His foundation has been found to be fraudulent. There's plenty of evidence. So you would think gung-ho, right? Why not go for impeachment? And for people who live in, I love y'all. right? All my progressive peeps, I love y'all. I do. I'm there. I'm solid with you. I've got your back. But we are not your average Americans. We are not. And if you spend time in Iowa and you spend time in Nebraska and you spend time outside of the coastal cities, the liberal cities, the urban areas, that's where elections are won and lost. And so I understand, like in my heart, I understand the arguments for impeachment. And in my head, I can see where Nancy Pelosi is saying, look, why did we crush the 2018 election? Why was Nancy like queen of all queens in terms of a historic, literally the most sweeping congressional seat change since Watergate? And she did that. Now, did she do that by running an anti-Trump? We're going to impeach him? Yeah, there was a little bit of, it's like people understood that they were voting for the Democrats to keep Trump in check. I get that. But you know what the message of the Democrats was? We need to fix healthcare. We need to deal with the opioid addiction crisis. We need to do, and it was all policy-based, right? Nancy Pelosi understands that at the end of the day, what we want, what Democrats and progressives, it's like Democrats want and progressives would tolerate, because not all of the progressives are Democrats, is a democratically controlled House, Senate, and White House. She wants to keep her majority. She wants to nab that majority off Mitch McConnell, and she wants to kick Trump out of the White House. And the question for Nancy Pelosi, and I understand this in my head, does impeachment increase the likelihoods of holding all three houses, or all three of those elements of the government, or doesn't it? Or does it hurt? It doesn't make a lot of sense to have a Pyrrhic victory where she authorizes an impeachment trial and it goes through in the House, and as a consequence, the Republican base, think of the Kavanaugh hearings, right? Think of how much hay that they were able to make out of the victimization of a rapist, or a guy who helped someone get sexually assaulted. Dang it, I'm going to get demonetized now. I can't talk politics and not say words that are going to get me demonetized. Yeah, so think about the rallying effect that the Kavanaugh hearings had. Can we all just cast our minds back to that? And think about how Fox News came to his aid and all kinds of, independent guys and independent white women. Everyone's pouring out support. Oh, poor Brett Kavanaugh. He just lied about the fact that the party he claimed he never attended was actually in his schedule. Or that Dr. Ford was naming people at a party that was confirmed by the attendance of people in a party he had produced in his own diaries from the time. Yeah, let's just forget about that and talk about this guy being victimized. Why? Because he was being held to account for his participation in a crime. Now you get that rallying cry, and Rush Limbaugh, and Sargon of Akkad, and Ben Shapiro, and Fox News day in, day out, and it becomes a Trump is the victim narrative, not Trump is being held to account narrative. And so I think from Nancy Pelosi's point of view, she will move on impeachment, and I will tell you when she will move. She's not dumb. She's not going to get out ahead of the curve. She's signaling, in my opinion, and I understand why it's smart. I understand why what she's doing is probably right, even though in my heart, I get frustrated as well. She wants to see the buildup. She needs this buildup, actually. Nancy Pelosi needs this decision in some ways for it to be taken forward and to be a success. She needs this buildup and pressure. She needs to see Democrats coming out and standing for impeachment, not just in New York and Florida, California, but she needs to see Midwestern Democrats in Congress standing up for this. Whatever people do in the Senate, that's not going to bother Nancy Pelosi, right? Especially not presidential candidates. She is not going to care what Kamala Harris thinks, or Elizabeth Warren, or Cory Booker. You know why? Because they're in the minority and they don't have any power. So No, Nancy isn't going to like take that into account at all. She's going to look, how many of my members are getting calls for impeachment? And if that number starts to climb up to 105, 110, 150, and it's not just the most liberal, most progressive districts, now she's got a base to work from. And that is what this is building up to. Remember, we've only had Democratic control of Congress for less than 6 months. And we already have somewhere like 40% of the country supports impeachment or something. Let's take a look at that. Support impeachment. Oh, how about I spell it right? What do we got? Okay, so this is from yesterday, and these are the headlines that Nancy Pelosi is looking at. She's not looking into the hearts of progressives. She knows our hearts, guys, but we're going to vote for the Democrats no matter what, right? We all know we're voting for the Democratic candidate no matter what. You know how I know? Because I'm being asked in March of 2019 to promise I'm going to vote for Bernie Sanders in November of 2020. All right, so she knows she has our votes. We are not going to abandon the party. So why would she cater to us? She doesn't need to cater to us. She needs to cater to these people, the majority who oppose the impeachment. So let's have a look. A majority, not a plurality, a majority of polled voters oppose impeaching and removing the president. However, a strong majority of Democrats are in favor of court, and of course we would be. So what? The survey found that a plurality of voters, 43%, favor no action against the president. Okay, that's a lie. Either it's a majority or we're going to figure this out. Because they can't be telling us it's both a majority and a plurality. So, a plurality of voters, 43%, favor no action against the president. 37% support impeaching and removing the president. Here we go. What? And 60% of Democrats polled. Do people not know the difference between majority and... I'm confused now. Majority is 50% plus 1. So, if it's a plurality of favoring nothing, then that's not a majority. I need to see these as a pie chart. Yada, yada, yada. 68% of respondents said Democrats in Congress should accept Mueller's finding there was no criminal conspiracy. That's not, of course, what he said. He said that if there was no criminal conspiracy, they would have said that, and they didn't. So this actually shows you exactly how successful the manipulation of the Mueller report by Barr has been. Right? Had Barr let Robert Mueller come out the day that he released the report and gave his own press conference, gave the press conference months ago that he gave now, which is to say, if we could have concluded the president did not commit a criminal act, we would have said so. Or we could exonerate him from that. We would have done. But instead, and this is the fascist propaganda spin that Trump wanted to settle in, 68% of respondents said Congress should accept Mueller's finding that there was no criminal conspiracy. There was a criminal conspiracy. There was a criminal conspiracy to cover up and to impede the investigation. But Fox News and Trump has been putting out a lie. And that is what Nancy needs time to unpack. She needs the hearings, we need the press conference, we need the depositions, or the subpoenas and the testimony before Congress. Because if people aren't behind it, if people are thinking that this is political, if people don't understand that that Mueller's report actually indicated that Trump committed crimes that Congress needs to investigate, then they will actually punish the Democrats at the ballot box for doing their job. So what is the good in that in the long term? So Nancy needs time to educate the public, for the facts to come out, for there to be a case to be built against the president from all of these. And also, I think we're going to see a pattern of obstruction. And the Democratic refrain, in my opinion, should be, what is Trump hiding? Why is Trump hiding? What is Trump hiding? Why is Trump hiding? Right? We're going to have the Deutsche Bahn stuff. We're going to get his taxes. We have a lot of time and a lot of information to get through. And we are starting off disadvantaged because of the GOP fascist propaganda machine that has lied about what the result of the Mueller report was. So that's my take on impeachment. I'm going to open it up to the chat here pretty quick. But that is why my understanding of Nancy Pelosi's current tactical structure, it's not because she doesn't think the president hasn't done anything that's worthy of impeachment. I think she's looking long term at how we actually get Democrats in the halls of power to fix the problems that Republicans have created. All right, so I see what's going on here. Hold on one second. I'm going to switch around my scenes a little bit. Yeah, that one will work better, actually. Yeah, should we do this one, or is that too small? I'm pretty small in that one, but what I can do, I'm gonna just do some OBS tactical things here, people. All right. What do you think of that? Is that a little bit better? I think in terms of seeing the chat, that is better. However, I need to go a little bit. Sorry, I'm tweaking things live on air. Okay, yeah. Tweaked. Let's see what you guys have to say. And I see I'm cutting off. Sorry, one last thing. Let me fix this, and then I will get on to your comments. So let me just quickly slide this screen over. Never mind. It's just going to stay where it is. Aha. Now that's better. Boom. I'm just going to start at the top. I don't understand what impeachment proceedings would be. Would they even be done before the election? An impeachment proceeding is basically an impeachment inquiry determines whether or not crimes have been committed such that Congress has sufficient evidence to bring charges or articles of impeachment. So you can consider articles of impeachment as like the probable cause. It's when sort of like when a district attorney is gathering enough evidence to go to trial. And so the role of the Congress in the House of Representatives in the impeachment process is to do the oversight work and gather the evidence and make the determination, which is not a legal determination. There's no law books on what constitutes an impeachable offense. It's a political question. It's a political decision. And I'm sorry, I'm going to turn up my sound a little bit because I realize I'm a little bit on the soft side there. And therefore, the purpose of the impeachment proceedings would be to determine if there is evidence, sort of enough evidence of a crime committed by the president, of whether that's obstruction of justice, or I think the first article of impeachment for Nixon was lying to the American people, and whether or not there's sufficient evidence that the crime was committed that he should be judged in the Senate. And then so articles of impeachment, if they're drawn up and passed out of the House, means that Congress believes that there is sufficient evidence that the president has committed a crime, and it needs to be examined by, or basically put on trial by the U.S. Senate. That's what happened with the Senate, with the Bill Clinton impeachment trial, and in the end they decided that there wasn't sufficient evidence to show that, well, they voted against impeachment. They didn't want to remove him from office. Now, that doesn't mean that he didn't commit perjury. It just means that there weren't enough votes to convict on that in the Senate. And that is what an impeachment proceeding would be. I doubt Trump has the political capital to overthrow the government and install himself as dictator. Well, if you actually look at what he's doing, he's now got an attorney general that doesn't work for the people of America. He's working for Trump. He's got a person in charge of the Internal Revenue Service who is refusing a congressional request for information out of his department about the president's taxes, which is unprecedented. You have his government basically telling federal judges they won't make public information that judge has determined should be released by the government. And when you have a Trump administration that acts lawlessly, and you have a Republican Senate that refuses to impeach him, yeah, that is how you destroy the norms, and and he can let things slide such that we start to see a degradation. And it's not necessarily about, Trump wanting to be president for life, because you know who he's setting up to be his replacement? Ivanka. It's about nepotism. It's about keeping that power in the family and keeping that access to violations of the emoluments clause and other illegal things that they are doing in order to personally profit from the White House, like using hundreds of millions of taxpayer dollars to fund their golf outings. So President Ivanka Trump can do that as well as her dad. And that is how you get a sort of installed as a dictatorship. You get a family power that is upheld by a complicit Republican Party, a theocratic patriarchal one that isn't interested in the rule of law. It's interested in imposing what they perceive as God's will. And they're willing to go to bed with anyone who can help them get those things. And that's how democracy dies in America. Pence would be a lame duck for a short number of months. Yeah, I can't even imagine Pence having a very successful, he's such a wet blanket and everything else. So what else? Impeachment would be years of more of the same stuff. Not necessarily. I mean, one, we haven't had much of the last 3 years. We haven't had investigations in terms of Trump. What we've had are show trials and an abuse of power by Republicans bringing up Benghazi emails over and over again in order to use the power of the state to discredit a political opponent of Donald Trump. Whereas Benghazi was investigated, 27 times and nothing was ever found. The Trump investigations so far have produced multiple convictions and guilty pleas. So no, I'm sorry, I'm just going to have to say Proutfoots. I think I disagree with that take entirely. McConnell looks like a turtle. I agree. I don't see Trump even trying. Well, you totally need to read the news more than. Someone had just said something about live tweeting. Yada, yada, yada. I am tweaking live on air. I don't know what that means. Tweakers? What? I think saying you don't consider impeachment plays into the fascist propaganda play. Now they can say, I think we should impeach. I just understand that it's going to take a while to build up a popular support for impeachment. And Nancy Pelosi is also not saying that we shouldn't impeach. I think she's just looking to she's looking to lead public opinion once a public opinion is in favor of it, but she's not going to risk her Democratic majority in the future of the 2020 election over a small short-term gain of maybe, an impeachment proceedings in the House, but no conviction in the Senate. All right, so from 250, hey, how you doing? Do you think the Republicans would back impeachment if someone found video footage of something like Trump literally committing murder? I think that's a pretty high hypothetical. I think impeachment in the Senate would depend a lot on the charges, because there are some things that just might be irrefutably crimes. I think the Michael Cohen thing, for instance, the guy is already in jail for doing something to benefit Trump. The idea that somehow the person who benefited from the crime isn't the one who committed the crime is ridiculous. I mean, it was at Trump's direction. He was in charge of it all. So I think, you might get people like a Mitt Romney or a couple others to vote along with it. But it's really not so much about being on tape. They have enough evidence already to convict him or to draw up articles of impeachment. There's no doubt there's sufficient evidence already. But what they lack is the political will in the population. People aren't clamoring for it, and that's what she doesn't want to get out of ahead of her skis. So the general public doesn't care about impeachment. Generally, they don't. I mean, the general public care about their healthcare bills, and they care about their kids' schools, and they care about whether or not they are, able to get ahead, and if they're experiencing, direct oppression or other things in their lives. So it's a pretty esoteric, for people who, like us, who care, it's a really important question. For people who are going about their lives and don't consume politics 24/7, it's, it seems like a political game. And this is something you'll notice about, I'm just going to be honest, low information voters or voters who don't, or citizens who tend not to vote. They are very likely to displace their lack of civic duty and not voting by blaming politicians. and they will say really useless things like, I don't understand why these people can't just get together and work these things out. Why can't you just sit down and negotiate? I'm like, well, if you're saying why can't they just sit down and negotiate, it means you don't understand what's keeping them apart. So there's a lot of that, that people who are, not likely to turn out blame politics for their lack of interest instead of saying, I'm uneducated on this and I don't care about my democracy. I'm not a good citizen. That's what they're not saying. Now, some people have other reasons for why they can't engage, like there are actual barriers to engagement. But for, I think, quite a lot of disaffected voters, it ends up being, blaming politicians when really it's that they're have personal lack of engagement. She watched nearly 2 hours of Christy before Overwatch 1. What? Wow, that's awesome. I don't like, I hope your daughter is an adult. I never think of my content as being for anyone under the age of 16. So the whole Trump family is nepotism personified. Absolutely. Absolutely no skills but inherited money. Precisely. This is it. I mean, what did Ivanka Trump ever do to be a special White House advisor? Nothing. You know what she is getting, though, as a consequence of this job? Patents in China and lots of money. I think if it was a more obvious crime, like murder as opposed to corruption, there'd be more popular. Well, possibly, but the thing is, like, even with, yeah, but let's be honest, Trump isn't going to kill anybody. Not direct. No. He will lead to deaths. He has led to death. Trump has indirectly. His policies kill people. But Republicans won't hold him responsible for that either. So, I mean, it might be hypothetically possible, but so unlikely as to be like more like a TV show. She's 20 and thinks you're awesome. All right, thank you. Like, I just have this, oh no, if your kids are watching me, like, don't let little kids watch me. I'm a grown up. And then I think she's awesome too for watching the show. So that's great. How are we for time? It feels like we're getting to the end of the show. We're getting to be the end of the show as well. Just throw in a random to be verb in there. Thanks you guys for joining me. I'm going to start wrapping it up, so I'll do a little bit more in the chat here, but I otherwise don't have anything else planned. This is the Sunday show. Sorry it's a little bit on the light side, although dunking on PragerU is always acceptable. It's fun. I have every plan on being here next Sunday. I have no travel plans in the near future, and also, I mean, I'll try to do some stuff, but you guys have, if you have a preference, okay, let me be honest. I don't personally care for it when I watch a creator and the creator says, hey guys, if you want to see me do some stuff on this topic or whatever, just tell me what topics you want to see me do videos on. And I always think that that's unfair. I think it's unfair to put it on your audience to come up with your content, because that's your job as a creator. So I don't want to ask you guys what I should do for content. I have lots of ideas for that. But what I guess I'd like to settle on, I noticed, for instance, like, Dusty, if you watch the podcast that he does, and definitely go watch the Cult of Dusty podcast on his channel. I support Dusty and Vadim and lots of other good content creators here on YouTube. And he's got sort of like a tweet section, and then he's got this video section and other bits. And I feel like here we're doing a bit of reaction to content on YouTube, like PragerU reactions, and then a bit of news reactions. I am interested in finding out if you guys like this format. So is it about the right amount of time, or would you like to see me maybe get through the reaction videos a bit faster, or do you want to see more news? I'm less interested in like you guys coming up with content for me and just seeing if you enjoy this format, like of the live show, or would you like me to get through 2 videos rather than 1? Because I might go a little slow because I keep looking things up or whatever else. So that's if you want to give me some of that feedback in the chat. I see lots of other questions. So Christy Winters, I'm more family friendly than the average alt-right YouTuber with a viewer base of 12 to 14. Yes, that's true. And I'm also, like I said, I want to have my content monetized so I don't have to ask you guys for money. And that's where I'm, especially in my Sunday shows, trying to be mindful of my language. Is not so difficult because I can work in a professional setting where I can, subconsciously control what I say. but it's the topics that we end up talking about, and with Carl Benjamin and other things, that usually throws me off base. Did I watch Steve's last Q&A stream? I think that happened while Kevin and I were on air, and I think afterwards it was 1 o'clock in the morning for me, and so I think I just went to bed. So I didn't. If there's something I should watch in the Q&A stream, let me know. I'll go check it out. Did I like Obama? Just curious. So my Obama history was I supported Clinton in the primaries. And then after she lost the primary to him, I eventually warmed up to him as our nominee. And by the time it was August, I was 100% on board with Obama and supported him and cried, to be honest, when he won. It was a moment of false pride or false hope. I don't know. Obama was, in so many ways, symbolic of what America can be, but then the reality of his presidency and all of the racism and obstruction and hate he received is exactly what America is in reality. By the end of it, I know that my lefty friends who insisted that Obama was so much better than Clinton, and Obama was going to be basically like the Bernie of his day, and he was going to stop all the wars, and he was going to close down Gitmo, and he was going to do all these things, and the drone strikes, right? All my lefty friends were telling me how morally superior Obama was to Clinton, that Clinton was just going to be more of the same. And so, we really needed a progressive in the White House, and we needed a lefty in the White House. And that wasn't Clinton, that was Obama. And so if we wanted to see real change, we should elect him. And then he basically did all the things that they said Clinton would do. And now these people are the same ones who are like, Bernie, 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 Bernie. And so that is like my talk to the hand. That is my, you know what, I trusted you guys on Obama, and by the end of the Obama presidency, I was fighting with you guys, you lefties, because you were crapping on Obama and telling me how horrible he was, and I was defending him. So clearly, I can't trust your judgment as to who a good progressive candidate would be. So everyone who, like all of my friends on Facebook, who back in 2008 were like, oh, Obama is better than Clinton, who then came back on me like, oh, Bernie's better than Clinton, like, no. I've stopped listening to you guys. You have no credibility with me anymore. So that's where we ended up. Yeah, but see, there we go. Obama was just another horribly disappointing neoliberal. And yet when he was being touted for the primaries, he was supposed to be this alternative. And what people outside of politics, I don't think, respect enough is that when an individual comes into the presidency, normally they respect the norms and the traditions, and they are put into the stream of history of American foreign policy. And president after president tends to be shaped into that stream. And when we don't have that, when we have someone like Trump, what you end up with are crazy trade wars and alliances with dictatorships and the abandonment of our allies. So, yeah, I mean, it was precisely all those people who, in my opinion, just turned around and threw Obama under the bus, who wanted to then lecture me to vote for Bernie Sanders. Goodbye. Right. I asked Steve why he wasn't mad at me for considering not voting for Bernie. Oh, God, can you guys just leave it alone until we get to the primaries are over? Seriously. STFU about the Bernie thing. Can we just actually have the primaries and see who wins before we have loyalty oaths that we have to hand out and we have to shame people if they're not willing to promise to do something in a year and a half? Seriously. What if it's Warren? I don't have Warren people in my mentions demanding that I swear a loyalty oath to Elizabeth Warren. I don't have Cory Booker people in my mentions shaming me if I don't promise to vote for Cory Booker. So why is it that the Sanders people feel the need to bully and push people and shame them into loyalty oaths in March of 2019 if you're so confident about your candidate? You know what? Stop bullying people and get your guy elected, because he's not doing that well in the polls. So, come back on me when it's October of 2019 and ask me who I'm going to vote for. Okay? So that's my opinion on why I hate Bernie Bros, and why they actually push me away from voting for him. And that shaming me and bullying me and embarrassing me will not win me over. nor other Clinton supporters. So, STFU. Bernie people. Not you personally, 250. I don't know you. I'm not mad at you personally, but I'm telling you, this is why I push, because I feel bullied. And I know that Big Lundy said, oh, it doesn't matter if there are bullies, you should do what's right anyway. I will do what's right in November of 2020. Don't tell me what's right in March of 2019. Let's even see if your boy can make it past the primary this time, because he couldn't last time. So let's see. You guys worry about getting Bernie through the primary first, and then we'll talk about who I'm going to vote for in the general. Right. Why do people like Bernie Sanders so much? Well, I think before he, in the last time around, he was the Obama of the 2008 election, right? Like, this was it. People hated Clinton, so they just imputed all of their progressive values onto Obama, and then they were disappointed when they didn't come through, right? So I think in the last time around, Bernie was that sort of empty vessel, and all the Clinton haters, all the neoliberal critics would be like, oh, this guy is my boy, and he's going to do everything he needs, he's going to be perfect. But that's the same mistake they made with Obama. It's exactly the same sort of imposition on a candidate of your views, and that he doesn't really hold. So because he was the alternative, and because he was, he didn't have the kind of history, and he had all this stuff, people were they saw him as the alternative. But now, this is why he's not doing so well this time. Bernie's not leading in the polls. Yeah, he's like holding his own, but considering he was sort of like the presumptive nominee in a lot of ways, because if you look at like John McCain coming in second, you want to do that way. Who the presumptive nominee of the Democratic Party would be Bernie Sanders, based on the fact that he had such a strong base last time, but he's not winning. People are picking Biden. So why are, there's name recognition, but there's also centrism. And this is it. A lot of people who vote for the Democrats aren't lefties, and they want a pair of comfortable hands. They want a pair of hands that they know could get elected. I don't think Biden's that person, but right now it's not. People don't think that person is Sanders either. All right. Yeah, and Jeremy Corbyn. Oh yeah, he's polling terribly. Jeremy Corbyn in the UK can't beat Theresa May, and she's quit. That's a really bad situation. Yeah, I think Bernie would be a president. Of course, Bernie would, if he became president, he would be a disappointment too, because all elected officials disappoint you. Because it's the cost of ruling. Once you get elected, you have to start actually being, making decisions, and you're not going to make 100% of the people happy all the time. So of course Bernie would be a disappointment. All politicians are going to be a disappointment. As soon as we accept that, I think we'll get a better perspective on politics. All right, I think we're going to, sorry, I don't think this much about Bernie, and I don't care so much about, I'm like focused on my candidate. I'm focused on having a positive message. I want to see how the debates go. I want to see how the candidates perform. And so, but do I have a lot of problems with Sanders supporters and Sanders? Yes, but I don't want to sit here and just trash on Bernie. I'm only talking about him because I was asked. So, what's so irritating about Corbyn, someone was saying, oh, there we go, is that his policies have popular support, but they don't like Corbyn himself. I completely agree. When I've done focus groups in the UK around the last election, well, there were people who were not going to vote for Labour, but the reasons they gave for not voting for Labour were things like Corbyn is palling around with terrorists. And it has nothing to do with a critique of Labour policies, and has all to do with the sort of demonization of the person of Corbyn. And I also think at this point now that of course was earlier on, but I think at this point now, there's a lot of Remainers who are very frustrated with Labour, that Corbyn isn't providing a clear alternative, that he's not playing the role of the loyal opposition in terms of standing for people who don't want to leave the EU. And from what I understand, he's come out in favor of a soft Brexit now anyway, which is where he's always been. So he is not... Campaigns and elections ultimately are about differences. They're not about where parties share common grounds or where parties agree. Therefore, if Corbyn is saying, I support a soft Brexit, and the Conservatives, well, they might support a hard Brexit, now are saying, we also support a soft Brexit, then what's the point of voting? What's the difference between voting for Labour and Conservatives if you support Remain? So, anyway. Kevin is unhappy with Corbyn for his Brexit views. Yeah, I've been kind of waiting for Kevin to get on my anti-Corbyn train for a while because I know he was standing for him for a bit, and I understand why, but I've been fed up of Corbyn's mushy position on leave or remain for a while now. But I don't want to like trash Corbyn to Kevin. Like I don't want to give that, because I don't want someone to like trash my party leader unless I initiate that conversation, especially from outsiders. Didn't Corbyn say he put it to the people in the end anyway? I don't know that he is really working for a second referendum. I don't see a lot of effort from Corbyn on making sure there's a second referendum before the end of October. If that's wrong, let me know. But I don't see him, being the champion of a second referendum. All right, guys. We're just kind of nattering now, and it's 5 minutes after the hour. I have my phone calls to make. I like to call my family. I'm also crooked. I have my phone calls to make. I like to call my family on a Sunday afternoon, so I will be doing that. Oh, the anti-video Nazi there's a question. Does anyone have a link to that anti-Nazi video from last week? What anti-Nazi video are you talking about? I'm trying to remember an anti-Nazi video from last week, but was it at the happy hour or was it on my show? So if you send me something on Twitter, I'll try to track down whatever anti-Nazi video you're looking for off air. So yes, I'm gonna go set up my Patreon hangout, the one about no true Nazi. I'll have to check the last week's episode. No true Nazi. Oh, wait. Was that the one that was done in German? I think I know what you're talking about now. Yes, it was done by a German television station. ARD, I want to say. And, yes, get in touch with me on Twitter and I can try to track it down. I know it's on YouTube. I think the name of it was, because I had to look it up. And it had something to do with like Nazi club, as in not like a club as in a physical stick. In the Third Reich was the name of the clip. That was the title of it. Yeah, tell you what, I'll do it off air because this is boring for anyone who's watching. So guys, I will go and set up the patron hangout. If you guys want to hear more chat, you can join me in a few hours here with probably Tom and some random geek and a bunch of other people who are awesome patrons of mine. I have no idea when the next happy hour is, but invariably there does seem to be one if you wait long enough. So just wait and one will appear. I have no plans on making any other content this week because work is just dragging me, and the show is pretty much my original content. So if there is something that you want me to react to, like you see a PragerU video or you see something else, you can definitely get a hold of me. I'll work it into the show content. If there's a newspaper article that you think we could go over, I would certainly work that in. So please tag me into some things. Otherwise, you guys, thank you so much for showing up. I appreciate your time and attention, and we will see each other again next Sunday. So I've been Christy. People in the chat, y'all have been awesome. People watching in the future, y'all are awesome too. Goodbye from me and goodbye from the chat. So I'll see you guys online in a few days or so. Have a good week. Have a good day. All my best to you. And until next time, goodbye.